All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about a pretty special database. This is one that basically looked at all the different database types and said, why pick just one? It decided to be a graph, a document store, and a whole lot more, all rolled into a single package. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the big idea, the dream behind OrientDB. Then we'll pop the hood and see how its engine actually works. After that, we'll look at where it's being used out in the real world. And finally, we'll talk about what really makes it different from everything else out there. Okay, so to really get what OrientDB is all about, you have to understand the problem it was designed to fix. See, developers were constantly having to make this tough choice, this big compromise. And this was the big question driving everything. What if one database could do the job of four? Think about it. Back in 2010, the database world was, well, it was super specialized. You had to pick your team. If you needed to connect the dots and map out complex relationships, you'd grab a graph database. But if you were dealing with flexible, messy data, you'd go for a document database. The problem? This forced developers to stitch together these complicated systems with multiple databases that honestly didn't play well together. So OrientDB just came along and asked a really simple question. Why should we have to choose? And this is where it all started. The creator, Luca Guruli, he had this vision for a single engine that could, speak both languages fluently. It could see your data as this intricate web of relationships and as a collection of flexible documents at the same time. This wasn't just about tacking on a few new features. No way. This was about building a totally new kind of database from the ground up. And that right there perfectly explains the whole idea of a multi-model database. It's not like having a bunch of separate tools in a toolbox. It's more like a Swiss Army knife. It's one single integrated system where the part that understands graphs can talk directly to the part that understands documents, and vice versa. It really is the ultimate data multi-tool. Okay, so we've got the what and the why. Now let's get into the fun part, the how. We're going to lift the hood and take a peek at the engine, the architecture that actually makes all this magic happen. So, check this out. These four pillars are what give OrientDB its incredible flexibility. First, you've got native support for all those different models, graphs, documents, you name it. Then, you get to decide if you want a rigid structure or a free-for-all with your data. It's built on Java, so it's super reliable. And get this, you can either stick it right inside your application or run it as its own separate server. The choice is yours. And that flexibility doesn't stop there. It's also about how you talk to your data. For pretty standard stuff, you can use a query language that looks a lot like SQL, which most developers already know. But, and this is the cool part, when you need to ask really complex questions about relationships, you can switch over to Gremlin. Gremlin is basically a GPS for your data's relationships. It lets you navigate that crazy web of connections and ask things like, hey, show me the friends of my friends who also happen to like the same movies as me. It's incredibly powerful. And don't get me wrong, this isn't some academic project or a niche tool. This thing is built for the big leagues. It's got all the features that serious businesses need. We're talking full ACID compliance, which is a fancy way of saying your data transactions are rock solid and reliable. It's got tight security, and of course, it's designed to scale up. You can spread your data across a whole bunch of servers. It's enterprise ready through and through. All right, we've seen how it works under the hood. So what? Why does any of this matter? Well, now we're going to see it in action. Let's look at some real-world examples where this unique design isn't just cool, it's a total game changer. Okay, first up, knowledge graphs. This is a huge one. Imagine you're trying to map out, a massive fictional universe like Lord of the Rings. Every character, who they're related to, what magical items they have, every place they've been. It's a giant tangled web, right? Well, OrientDB's graph powers make untangling that web and connecting all those dots feel completely natural. It's what it was born to do. Now think about fraud detection. In finance and security, looking at relationships is everything. Imagine you're a fraud analyst. Instead of just looking at one transaction at a time, you can see the entire network. OrientDB can instantly light up a whole ring of accounts that look separate on the surface, but are all secretly connected to the same burner phone or shady address. It uncovers these super sophisticated scams that would just be invisible otherwise. Or how about content management? That mix of document and graph models is just perfect here. Think about a site like YouTube or Medium. Your user profile, that can be a flexible document. But then the graph part connects you to every video you've watched, every comment you've left, and every creator you follow. That's how they build those really rich, personalized recommendation engines.
And here's a cool one, the Internet of Things. Because OrientDB is so lightweight, you can actually embed it directly inside a device. So it can be the brain inside a smart sensor on a factory floor or in a connected car, processing data right there on the spot. No need to constantly phone home to some giant server in the cloud. It's data management on the edge. You know, this quote just nails it. It really gets to the heart of it. OrientDB found its sweet spot with a specific kind of developer, the ones who looked at the database world and said, nope, I'm not going to compromise. They wanted the awesome power of graphs for finding connections, but also the dead simple flexibility of a document database. They wanted it all, and OrientDB gave it to them. So, after all that, where does OrientDB fit in today? I mean, the database world is more crowded and competitive than ever. Let's see how it stacks up. There are really three things that make it stand out from the crowd. First and foremost, that deep all-in-one multi-model engine. It's still its killer feature. Second, it's completely open source, which is huge. Anyone can use it, look at the code, and contribute. And third, it's serious about making sure your data is consistent and reliable, even if your servers are spread all over the planet. And if you look at this comparison, you can really see its unique position. You've got amazing specialized databases out there like Neo4j, which is a king in the graph world, or Couchbase for documents. But OrientDB's superpower is how deeply it blends these models together. What does that mean? It means a developer can write one query that starts by traversing a graph and then seamlessly pulls in data from a document. It's all one fluid operation, which gives them a ton of power and control without ever leaving the system. So, this leaves us with a big question to think about. We all know data is getting more and more complex, more and more connected every single day. So, is the best path forward to just keep adding more and more specialized tools to our toolbox? Or is the future in smarter, more versatile platforms like this one? Tools that were designed from day one to handle all that messy, interconnected complexity in a single, elegant system.